Hi guys, I hope you're good. I hope you're well and excited for our lesson today. We are still doing fractions and we are looking specifically today at the multiplication and division of fractions while factorizing. Okay, so we are using two methods now, two or three or more even methods at the same time. We are trying to simplify an expression using the laws of multiplication, division, and also the laws of factorization. So please buckle up, grab your pen and paper, your snacks, and let's do it. So, guys, the first part of our lesson today looks at the introduction part of this. So, in some cases of simplifying an algebraic expression, the expression will be a fraction. So, like in this case today, we are working specifically with fractions, okay? And we have to apply different factorization methods. We need to apply those methods in order to factorize the numerator. So we are looking at both the numerator and the denominator before we can simplify completely the expression. So before we can actually finish our simplification of this expression that we have, we need to look at all the laws that we need to apply here, and we need to be very careful whenever we are dealing with that. All right, so now let's see what we actually have. So in front of us is as the work example number one, we have this beautiful expression there in front of us which says simplify x to the power of 2 minus x minus 2 all over x squared minus 4 divided by x squared plus x all over x squared plus 2x. And the restrictions are x is not equal to 2 and x also should not be plus or minus 2. So those are the restrictions that we have there. And guys, I will be guiding you step by step on how to actually work around this problem. So the first step, the first thing that you need to do is try to factorize every value that you see. So let's try to factorize and see what we have. And another thing that we note, guys, is we have that division sign there. So if you find yourself without division sign, it means you need to invert and multiply. So now let's change things. So we are going to have x squared minus x minus 2 divided by x squared minus 4 times x squared plus 2x divided by x squared plus x. So now we have inverted and multiplied. Okay, now the second step is we need to try and factorize. So if you factorize, let's try to factorize the first part. We open two brackets. As you can see, we have a trinomial there. If you're still struggling with factorizing, go back to our previous video under the factorization. You will see how we factorize trinomials and also common factors. So here we're going to put the first values, so factors of the first term and factors of the last term, that when you add or subtract, they need to give you the middle term. So 2 will have the negative sign and 1 will have the positive sign. All right, now we divide this by trying to find factors of x squared minus 4, and we have the difference of two squares, so it means we'll open two brackets. Also you open two brackets, x factors of 4 is 2 and 2 opposite signs. So opposite signs when it's difference of two squares, and this is times, we look at the value on top, we have x squared plus 2x. What type of factorization can we use there? We use the common factor factorization method. So x is a common factor both sides, so we take x out as a common factor and you are left with x plus 2. You divide this. Now we check also the second part also has a common factor, so x is a common factor also there, and you are left with what? You are left with x plus 1. Now once you have things like this and the value, the sign separating them is the multiplication sign, you are allowed if you have a numerator that looks exactly the same as the denominator, you are allowed to cancel out those values. So now let's divide or cancel out every value that looks the same. So let's look for x minus 2. So I have x minus 2 there and I have x minus 2 there. So once it's a numerator and a denominator, you are allowed to divide them out or to cancel them out. And now let's look for x plus 1. I have x plus 1 there. So if it's a numerator and a denominator, I am allowed to cancel them. Now, if I have x, let's look for x. We also have x underneath there, so we can also divide them. And lastly, we are left with x plus 2, and we have another x plus 2 there, so it divides out. So the moment you've divided out everything, guys, remember if you have 2 divided by 2, you are left with 1. The same concept works. If you have x plus 1 divided by x plus 1, your answer is also 1. So since we've divided everything up, so it means our answer here is 1. Exciting, right? Doing all that hard work and the answer is 1. Quite interesting. So now let's do the second one. Let's do the second example and see what we have. Let's hope we don't get a 1. Now, example number 2 also says simplify. So we're simplifying p squared plus pq all over 7p times 21q all over 8p plus 8q. So that is what we have, and this is how we do it. So first try to factorize if possible, okay? And the sign separating the two parts is a multiplication, so there's no need for us to invert anything, okay? So this is how we do it. We check, do we have p this side and p that side? Yes, we do have p on both sides. So we do have p on both sides. So p is a common factor. This is going to be p outside. We take out p and we are left with only 1p plus q, because we now removed this one, so we are left with q only. You close the brackets, divide this by 7p, multiply this by 21q all over 8 is a common factor both sides, so we have 8 both sides, so we take out 8 and you're left with p plus q. Okay, so at this point this is what you have, and you can simply say you have p, let me just use a different pen, you have p plus q, the bracket of p plus q there, and another bracket of p plus q. So you can easily divide those two values, okay? So you can easily cancel out. That's the terminology that we use, but it's actually dividing them out. And now it means you are left with p. Let me continue using green. It means you still have p, but now times 21q divided by 7p times 8. Okay, so that is what you have at this point, and we need to ensure that we find actual proper values. And another thing that you need to note, guys, is that you are not done actually. So now you have 21pq divided by, so you need to have your 7 times 8 first. So 7 times 8 gives you 56. So 56 what? 56p. And still you are not done, because you need to find values that, okay, we still have p there, so we cancel p and you're left with 21q divided by 56. Now you can still find values that go into both numbers, or even at this point you can actually just leave it there if you're comfortable with your numbers. So it's actually a matter of finding which numbers go into them, into both numbers. So the number that I can divide both sides with is 7. So if I divide by 21 by 7, I'm left with 3. So it's 3q divided by, if I divide also 56 by 7, I'm left with 8. So the answer will be 3q over 8. So 3q over 8 is the answer for that. And now lastly, I have one more for you. I have one more interesting problem for you, and let's see if we will easily find the answer. So the first thing, guys, that you need to always look at is you're trying to see if do I have a division or a multiplication sign. So if it's a multiplication, just be happy, smile about it, okay? Now the second step is to try to find any polynomial or trinomial that you can easily factorize, or even a binomial in this case that you can factorize. And yes, we can factorize that. We can try to also factorize the other part. So let's see what we have. If I try to factorize 16 minus x squared, I will factorize it in this manner. Open two brackets. I see it's difference of two squares, so it means this is 4. Factors of the last term is x, and opposite sign. Divide this by, now let's try to find factors of x squared minus x minus 12. Now let's see, factors of that also will be factors of the first term, x and x. Factors of the last term, that when you multiply them they give you 12, but when you add or subtract them they give you a negative 1. So we can easily use 4 and 3, because 4 times 3 can give you 12, and 4 minus 3 can give you a 1. Now signs, this one is going to be negative and the other one will be positive. So that is how we choose signs, guys. And then times, this is going to be times x plus 3. I'm putting brackets now because we will have to cancel or divide a few values. All right, so guys, once you've reached this step and you are multiplying, remember you are multiplying, not adding or subtracting, multiplying, you are allowed to cancel values that you find similar. Okay, so if you have x plus 4 or 4 plus x also underneath, you are allowed to cancel those two values. So now let's see if I have a numerator. So I have a numerator of 4 plus x, and underneath I find myself with a denominator that says x plus 4. So the nice thing about addition, guys, is that if I say 1 plus 3, I can get 4, and it's still the same as 3 plus 1, which still gives me 4. Unlike subtraction, when you say 1 minus 3, it will not give you the same answer as 3 minus 1. That will not give you the same answer. So now, since I have addition, guys, 4 plus x, it is the same thing as x plus 4. So I can take out those two brackets just like that, okay? And next I have x plus 3, and next one I have 3 plus x. So I have x plus 3, both of them, so I can easily cancel out also those two fractions. Now we are left with 4 minus x. So if we are left with 4 minus x, and also we are left with x minus 4. So we have those two cases there, guys, and those two numbers are not the same, but this is math. We push things, we need to push them to the limit until they are the same. We need to do something about it. So now let me show you a technique of working with such numbers, making them look the same. So the first thing is you rearrange this to be written in the form of minus x plus 4. So you divide this by x minus 4. So what I did is I just rearranged these values. So I just rearranged, it was minus x there, so it's still minus x. It was minus 4, so it's still minus 4. And then the next step is you try to get rid of this negative sign. So if you want to remove that negative sign from that position, you put it outside, guys. We don't throw away values here, okay? So you put that negative outside, you open the bracket, you're left with x minus 4 now. Now I'll explain that in a second. So we divide this by x minus 4. So how come do I say this part is exactly the same as that part? Because if I multiply in that -1, so now if you have a negative value outside, if I multiply that -1 there, it gives me -x, and if I multiply it there, negative and negative gives me positive. So I'm still fine. I did everything that is completely legal. So at this point now, you have two brackets that look the same. So if you divide these two brackets now, you are left with that -1 outside. That is why your answer is -1. So the reason why I did this is because if you had left it at 4 minus x divided by x minus 4, you are not done. You can still do something about it. Okay, so that is why we had to manipulate this value until it gives us what we actually want. So that's why the questions would always say simplify completely or simplify. So that means you need to ensure that you push until you reach the end. So guys, this is how you work around these values, multiplication and division of fractions, when also using the concept of factorization. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and if you didn't understand any part of it, just go back, pause the video, try to do it on your own, and you will definitely understand it. And you also, if you're still struggling with factorization, go back to one of our lessons on factorization. You will see that we're factorized by common factors to all trinomials, binomials, everywhere factorization we have done it. Okay, so guys, thank you for joining me on today's lesson, and I will see you on the next one.